Blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep his testimonies, who seek him with their whole heart. They do no wrong, but follow his ways. As they obey, I will praise you, Lord. I will praise you, Lord, with
Good morning, everybody. Is everybody having the same allergy-filled morning as me? I saw a couple of packs of cough drops rolling around, and so, yeah, it's that time of year, huh? Welcome once again, online viewers. We welcome you as well. Thank you for joining us online. A lot of people check us out because you're watching online and you share. That's at riverks.com. And that's the best place to watch us online. Facebook is great, but our website is better. So check in on Facebook and your social media so that your friends can check us out. We do have a media room downstairs, so if someone gets rowdy or if you're hacking your head off like me, then you can go downstairs. Info table in the back, it's got information about VBS and all the upcoming things that we have going on at the church. Our mission is to inspire people to follow Jesus. And let's greet one another this morning before we have praise time. So stand up and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Enjoy the show.
Let's find our seats, and we will. I hope you'll remain standing, actually. Don't find your seat. And help us out on this music this morning, everybody. I need help. Maybe. I wish I could tell you. Wish I could describe it, 'cause I can't contain it, can't keep it to myself. There aren't enough colors to paint the whole picture, not enough words to ever say what I found. Wonderful and beautiful and glorious and holy, He is merciful and powerful. Who we talking about? That's my King. We declare the glory, give Him all the honor, altogether worthy. Who we talking about? That's my King. There's no one before you. Yes, we will adore you. All of this is for you. Who we talking about? That's my King. Jesus, you are my King. Hey, I'm not letting the rocks cry without joining the chorus. There aren't enough notes to make a harmony. It's the song of the angels, through all of the ages, with all of the earth and heaven symphony. Wonderful and beautiful and glorious and holy, He is merciful and powerful. Who we talking about? That's my King. We declare the glory, give Him all the honor, altogether worthy. Who we talking about? That's my King. There's no one before you. Yes, we will adore you. All of this is for you. Who we talking about? That's my King. That's my God. That's my shepherd, my protector. That's my King. That's my rock. That's my anchor, my defender. That's my King. That's my God. That's my shepherd, my protector. That's my King. That's my rock. That's my anchor, my defender. That's my King. We declare the glory, give Him all the honor, give Him all the praise. Altogether worthy. Who we're talking about? We declare the glory, give Him all the honor, altogether worthy. Who we talking about? That's my King. There's no one before you. Yes, we will adore you. All of this is for you. Who we talking about? That's my King. 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 Who we talking about? That's my King.
I've been thinking lately about how we all are. And sometimes we're so distracted, we're staring at our phones. We're all looking around for the next big thing. Well, what if the next big thing was right where we are? I believe it's love, sweet love. Maybe that's what this world has been dreaming of. It's love, oh, sweet love. Time keeps ticking away, and we've only got today. So make this a moment now, one of your best yesterdays. Lord, I'm praying, please, please open up our eyes to show the world that the next big thing is your great love. And I believe Just because we're all different doesn't mean we're not the same. 'Cause we're all made in the image of a great God who saves. Love's not just an emotion, it's an action.
Love's not just an emotion, it's an action. Love's not just an emotion, it's an action.
Love's not just an emotion, it's an action. And I believe it's love, sweet love. Maybe that's what this world has been dreaming of. It's love, oh, sweet love.
Sweet love.
I believe it's love,
Sweet love.
Maybe that's what this world has been dreaming of.
Sweet
Is
love.
love, oh, sweet love.
Sweet love. My eyes on your faithfulness. Oh God, let me not forget to sing in the valley, to look toward your goodness. My heart set on who you are. You're the light that consumes the dark, the joy and the strength to lift up my hands and see. I enter the gates with nothing but thanks. I want to magnify your word. I want to bring you more than words. I enter the gates, come reckless with praise. I'll bring a heart that wants you first, all for your glory. My feet on the battleground, my weapon will be my sound. I will not be silent, my song is my triumph. I enter the gates with nothing but thanks. I want to magnify your words. I want to bring you more than words. I enter the gates, come reckless with praise. I'll bring a heart that wants you first, all for your glory. Your glory. Sing, my soul will sing, my soul will make this place an altar, make this place an altar. Sing, my soul will sing, my soul will make this place an altar, make this place an altar. Sing, my soul will sing, my soul will make this place an altar, make this place an altar. Sing, my soul will sing, my soul will make this place an altar, make this place an altar. I enter with nothing but thanks. I want to magnify your worth. I want to bring you more than words. I enter the gates, come reckless with praise. I'll bring a heart that wants you first, all for your glory. With nothing but thanks, I want to magnify your worth. I want to bring you more than words. I enter the gates with reckless, with praise. I'll bring a heart that wants you first, all for your glory. Your glory. Your glory. Your glory.
Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe that you are my fortress. Oh, you are my portion. You are my hiding place. And I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are
The way,
the truth, the light. I believe through every blessing, through every promise, through every breath I take. I believe that you are provider. Oh, you are protector. You are the one I love. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today. The mercies that I knew, all my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I'm here with you. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew, all my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long. And I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that I knew, all my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long. And I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are. Oh, you are.
and great singing this morning. And kids, you are dismissed at this time.
Here's the thing. I can't volunteer for VBS this year. I take care of my own kids all day. I'm already tithing. What else do they want from me? Kids just don't get me. I don't know anything about the Bible. I am not a juice and crackers man. My kids are already grown up. I can't sing. I can't carry a tune. I volunteered last decade. I need less stress in my life. I'm allergic to glitter. Kids are gross. I don't have enough vacation days. Let's be honest, you don't want me teaching our kids. Look, we've heard it all before, so cut the charades and sign up for VBS. I think God's calling me to the parking lot ministry.
Living on Earth might make you feel small. You're just one of 8 billion on this blue cosmic ball. So many characters with their roles to play. Perhaps many, if not most, still finding their way. Some who are given to athletic pursuits, while others find joy on educational routes. Those who build and those who farm. Those who sell widgets using their charm. But aren't we more than what we do? Being one of 8 billion should give us a clue. On our own, it's difficult to make a big dent. Brokenness and need refuse to relent. Perhaps we were designed for a much grander endeavor. Not toiling alone, but pulling together. The planet is large, this much is true. But when God calls his people, there's so much we can do. Solve the world's problems. That does sound absurd. But maybe we can start with this strange little word.
Well, welcome. We're in week 2 of a series called Ekklesia. And it sounds like I sneezed, but I didn't. You know, that's not saying gesundheit. Ekklesia, this is not, it's a word, it's a Greek word that we've talked about. We're getting into what that means, what Jesus meant. It's not a Star Trek alien race or a Star Wars planet. You know, it could be, it's not a late night commercial about a prescription that you don't want. You know, that's what it sounds like. Ekklesia, you know, sign up today. It is what Jesus meant when he used the word church. It describes us who meet together here. And there are ecclesias in every building worshiping Jesus today or this weekend. So we are an ecclesia. We're part of the ecclesia. Now, last week we got into why it's so important for us to let go of the word church, because church is actually this building. And so in order to kind of understand that, let's kind of give you a working definition of ecclesia. You can go back last week and you can watch. We apologize. I think our Facebook feed has been off for a couple of weeks, but you can go to our website, riverks.com/live, and you can watch. But here's what an ecclesia is. The word Jesus used when he was talking to Peter and says, you know, upon this rock, Peter, you'll be my rock, and I'm going to build my, and the English translation is church. But that's not what Jesus said. He said ecclesia. That became a translation later down the road, somewhere around the 16th century when the Catholics were in charge of things and they wanted the church to be recognized as an authority. And so that lends so many things because we have so many working definitions. If you grew up in church, church could be bad for you, church could be good for you. You could love church, you could hate church. And so we're not talking about a church. An ecclesia is a community of people who are brought together by Jesus, who live and love like him within their community. And that's us. We're here to live and love like Jesus in this community. and to take the love and message of Jesus to the people that we know. So we are an ecclesia. That's what Jesus said. And so here's kind of a comparison side by side. The modern use of the word church is a building where people attend. And I just want to acknowledge this. When you talk about church, it's hard for me to let go of that word because I grew up in church, and I literally grew up in church, right? You know, going to church my whole life. But I've been part of different communities of faith that met in different buildings. It's a place where we hold services. It's defined by a location. But what Jesus meant when he said, I will build my ecclesia, he didn't mean a building. He meant a Jesus people. A group of people who decided, okay, here's our purpose in this community. This is what we're about, because you have all kinds of different groups who meet together, different ecclesias with different missions. Some emphasize one thing over another, but we're all part of that bigger mission. So a community of people brought together by Jesus who live and love like him. So last week we asked a very practical question. We said, if that's true, who is your ecclesia? While the New Testament and the writers of the New Testament, Jesus never mentioned membership, like joining a church, it is implied that we commit to our assembly of Christians who meet together, who are on mission together. It's implied. And so it doesn't have to be an official sign up, and we talked about that last week. We asked the question, who is your ecclesia? And if you don't have one, go find one. If you don't like this one, go find another one, because there's plenty to choose from. And so as we get into this, I want you to think about that, because in the next 2 weeks, I want to talk about what Jesus meant when he said, this is how the ecclesia is meant to function. You've been a part of a lot of organizations, teams, schools, organizations, your work. They have systems, they have flow charts, they have leaders on different levels. So you understand systems. And Jesus actually set up the ecclesia to have a system. We'll get into that in a couple of weeks. And so being part of that system means you take on a role. So how does that system, how does this organization function? What did Jesus mean for it to do, and how should it function? And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's not about programs like having Sunday school or small groups. That's just one way or a way. It's not the way. It's just a cultural thing that works. It's not about personalities. The ecclesia is not meant to be built around me or some really good preacher or teacher, or you've got good music. It's not about that. It's built around the community. Listen, I am not stupid. I know how this works. You come here because you're connected to people, right? People want connection. And what causes people to stick through bad preachers and bad systems and bad church experiences is the people they get connected to. And I've seen over time, being here, this is working on my 17th year, that the reason why people stick is because they have bought into or become part of an ecclesia. They feel like they belong. They feel like they have ownership. They feel like, this is my church family, as we're going to talk about today. So we're not talking about events or Sunday services. Those are just outlining ways we try to function to do the mission of Jesus. We're going to get into what it means. Now, aren't metaphors helpful? I mean, metaphors are helpful, right? They're word pictures, and they describe how something is, like something, as something, using similes. And so there are 3 big metaphors that you find in the New Testament that help us understand the word ecclesia. Now, I said this earlier, but the Romans understood ecclesia because they spoke Greek, and they would have said ecclesia. And they immediately knew if you said ecclesia, it meant meeting. If you said ecclesia, it'd be meeting. And you've been to meetings like team meetings, volunteer meetings, organizational meetings, staff meetings. You would say meeting. They would say ecclesia. And in this meeting, was kind of everybody with the same purpose. When you work for a company, you have the purpose. Maybe you're selling hamburgers or food or a product, and you have a staff meeting because you're on mission to make sure your company does the best. That's the way the Roman culture in Jesus' time would have understood this word. Now, what Paul does and what Jesus does and Peter does is they give us these metaphors that have crossed these cultural and historical timeline. And what I did was I picked the 3 that we identify with the most. There are actually 6 metaphors. 6 metaphors used. I'm not going to cover all 6. I picked the 3 that I think we identify with the most, not because they're the most important, but because I don't only have a short window and you don't want to be here 2 hours, right? So, also, there's so much information on this. One of the books I have is called The Body of Christ, and we'll get into that next week, The Body and the Team. And it's the biggest book I own. That's how much information is out there in the New Testament about this. I mean, I could preach 3 months on this stuff, and I'm combining it into 2 Sundays. So bear with me if I'm not going to run long, but I'm just making no promises right now, okay? So here we go, family, body, team. That's the metaphor of an ekklesia. Everybody say it with me. First of all, look at someone and say, you look good today. Go ahead and say that. Yeah, tell them you look good. There you go. All right, you spoke. You got it out. Now everybody say family, body, team. Ready? Family, body, team. Say it again. Ready? Family, body, team. Now say it like you mean it. Family, body, team. That's an ekklesia. That's the metaphor. Today, we're just going to talk about family, and we all get that. We all have a family. Probably you don't like them very much. You might be mad at somebody, but you have a family. Word pictures are helpful, and that's what this helps us do. Because no one speaks Greek, including me, and it just sounds unfamiliar when I keep bringing up ekklesia. So as we get into this, here's what we're going to talk about in the next 2 weeks. Today, we're just talking about how an ekklesia is supposed to love like a family. We're supposed to function like a family. You've heard it said, we're a church family. That may be a little weird if you're a guest or if you're not involved, but really that's the way, and it's so easy for a smaller church like us to do that because we don't have, 600 people sitting in the room. There can be but you can be just as disconnected in a small church as you can in a big church. The other 2 things we're going to talk about next week, they operate like a body. We'll talk about that. And then they work like a team. So today, let's just stick with family. We're going to talk about how they function, they work together, they operate, they get along, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, can anyone guess the other metaphors we're not discussing today? Anybody? Just throw it out there. Anybody remember another metaphor Jesus used to describe the church or the ekklesia? Okay. Either you don't want to talk or you really don't know, or you're just so smart you don't want to look too smart in the room, right? So let's just say that's what it is. There are 3 metaphors that actually, and it's these. The shepherd and the sheep, which is not a common metaphor. I mean, how many people have sheep? Anybody have sheep? Anybody shepherding any sheep at home? We don't do that. We're not a culture of shepherds and sheep. You might have some cattle, but, that's different. You might have cats. That's kind of like sheep. You're stupid. There's a groom and a bride. We get that. We understand how that works. Jesus being the groom, we're being the bride. I've always felt weird about that because I don't feel very bride-like. I'm not a bride, but I am a bride when it comes to this. And then there's the vine and the branches. I'm the vine, you are the branches. These are other ways that the ekklesia is supposed to be understood, but we're not going to talk about that. A bride is loved and chosen. It talks about the groom and his bride and that relationship. So you get the metaphor of marriage. The branches, we're connected to Jesus as our source of spiritual life. We draw our nutrients from him. And as a flock, we're sheep, which, is insulting because they're stupid. So it's just a reminder that, we need a shepherd and we're going to wander. And so those are 3 other metaphors that actually describe how we're supposed to function. We're not talking about those. I just wanted to throw those out there. So, ekklesia, it loves like a family. It operates like a body. It works like a team. Now, Every single one of these metaphors work together. They don't work unless they're pulling together. They're working together, they're sticking together, they're operating together. A family is united by love, and they stick when it's hard. We're going to talk about that. A body is connected by what it needs from every part. I need my fingers, I need my toes, I need my ankles, I need my eyes and ears. I need every part of my body in order for Rusty to function. A team is driven by a shared goal that drives them forward. And every team and every coach has a different way that they go about, but their goal is to win, right? That's what teams do. So today, we're just going to cover the aspect of what it means to be a family. And so this is the takeaway for the next 3 weeks. We're going to focus on the family, but if you have a handout, if you're taking notes, this is kind of what we want you to know. Every week, I do 2 things. I give you a takeaway, which is what I want you to know, which I want you to understand what Jesus is teaching or the writers of the New Testament is teaching. And each week, I give you a challenge, a simple, easy, and obvious step that help you kind of apply this. So here's the takeaway. The function of Ekklesia is to love like a family, operate like a body, and work like a team. And we understand these because they exist in culture. Now, let's talk about family, because I just spent a week with mine. And so I've got some stories. Families share love, they stay committed, and they're messy, right? That's the 3 things families do. They share love. It's where you first experience love or not love. It's where trauma comes from. There's so much research out there that comes from. This is where you understand, deficit in love and love languages. Families. One thing families do, and we can't explain it, but we understand it, is they stay committed to each other. I mean, I don't want to tell my story too early, but I went to a family meeting. Some of those family members I didn't want to see, right? But I'm committed to my family. And it's messy. It's really messy. The Ekklesia was never meant to be a community of strangers who didn't know each other or know each other's business or wasn't involved in each other's life, wasn't interconnected by the mission of Jesus. It was always intended, and in fact, this word is used constantly, and it was foreign to the Roman culture. It was always intended to be a household of faith, a house of faith, meaning that our home is where we interact with one another, and this building, which would be a church building, is where the Ekklesia meets. It's where the family of God meets. It's always bound by love. It's not bound by belief. Now, there are some Ekklesias out there that are exclusive and say, now, if you want to come here, you need to believe this, and we only believe this, and we don't believe that, right? We've worked hard at basically simplifying what we think are essentials and non-essentials. There's truth, but there's truth that you can fight over, and there's truth that's really, okay, it's just not as important as the main thing. And we try to keep Jesus the main thing here. Jesus, let's just center our lives around Jesus, learn how to love God, love each other, and practice self-control, and we got this down. That's it. Let's love God, love each other, and practice self-control. And listen, we're going to get along if we practice self-control. We all know that to be true. That's the fruit of the Spirit. So, we know how love works because it's been modeled to us by humans. But we know how the Ekklesia works because it's been modeled to us by Jesus. We're not meant to function like trauma in a normal human family. We're meant to function like we're copying our leader, and our leader is Jesus. And we're meant to function like each of us loving Jesus and loving each other like Jesus. So let's talk about how a family shares love. I mean, today we sang a song, Love Isn't a Feeling. It's not a feeling. It is a part of something that reacts in your brain, but love is really a commitment that results in an action that comes out in words. Some people say, well, actions speak louder than words. Not if your love language is verbal praise. Mine is verbal praise, and words speak louder than actions to me. For some people, actions speak louder than words. I want to hear you say it as much as I see you do it. So it's not a feeling, it's an action in both what you say and what you do. In the Ekklesia, love is always the first proof that I belong to Jesus. Because I'm operating like a family, I'm learning to love people in this Ekklesia like Jesus would love you. Because I have Jesus inside me, so I want to show you the love of Jesus. Now, I'm human, that means I'm going to fail. It means that sin's going to get in the way. It means I'm not going to do it well, and I'm going to have bad days. But in a family, we all recognize that everybody's going to have a bad day, right? Some people have bad weeks. Some of you are on bad years. But you know what I mean? We all have bad days. And so that's what it means to be a community of people brought together who love like Jesus. We love like a family is supposed to love. John 13:34, Jesus said this so many times. We've gone over this verse so many times, but it's really the one command that Jesus gives us. Out of all the commands, you do this one thing, listen, you'll get everything else right. You obey this one command, you'll do all the commands in the New Testament. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Let's think that through for a minute. If you love each other like Jesus, you're not going to commit adultery or steal people's stuff or kill people or do stuff you shouldn't do or take people to court. You're not going to do any of this. You're not going to lie to one another because love is going to keep you from making those choices. So as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And so let's all say that together. Ready? We love like Jesus. Ready? We love like Jesus. That's what we do. Let's say it again. We love like Jesus. Accepting, forgiving, receiving, welcoming, listening, staying, covering, serving, restoring, showing up, making space, laying down pride, laying down our lives. That's how we share love. Families share love. That's the intended function of the Ekklesia. The second intended function as a family is to stay committed. Now, this one is a little more difficult for all of us because you might have grown up in a family that has gone through divorce. And so it's hard to see how families stick together when you have that type of rupture. And that's very painful. But the intention that we all do, we all say, we all think, no one goes into marriage. I never counsel a couple that thinks, 20 years from now, I'd kind of like to get rid of you and divorce and find somebody else, a fresher model. You never say that. You never think that. You're thinking love for a lifetime. That's what everybody's thinking. It doesn't work out that way all the time, but that's what we want. And when you're thinking about the next relationship, you want a relationship that stays committed. Now, we can ask the question, why do families stick together? It's in our DNA. It's how we're wired. We can't really explain it. There's a blood bond. There's a bond there. And you would never think of abandoning your children. You're going to stay with them, and especially your grandchildren. Your kids can go, by the way. The grandchildren, no, absolutely not. I totally get that. Well, I love my children as much as I love my grandchildren. Let me just say that. I don't really like that statement, but I understand it. It's because, with grandchildren, you play with them and send them home. You can't do that with your kids, except when they want to eat at your house because they ain't got no money. So families share a bond, and even though there's trauma, hurt, they stay. They stick together. They remain together. The early Ekklesia, that very first group of Christians that were meeting together in Jerusalem, they weren't acquaintances. They weren't strangers. They knew each other's business, and they were involved in each other's lives. They were devoted to one another. And it takes commitment to be devoted. And that's what Paul meant when he said, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Now, here's what's interesting about this whole thing. You don't see the word family in there, but in Greek, it's implied. Devoted in love comes from Philiostorgos, where we get Philadelphia, which means the city of brotherly love. And Philiostorgos actually is family love. And so what Paul is saying is be devoted like a family to one another. We don't get that in the translation, but it's implied in the Greek. It means a family that sticks together. It's one of the only places where this word actually appears. This isn't casual friendliness. It's deep, affectionate loyalty, the kind that's found in close families. You ever been to a family and been with them and hung out and thought, wow, that family really is close. They're bonded together. And then, why can't my family be like that? That's the intention that we're talking about. It's emotional loyalty based on a spiritual commitment, much like marriage, because marriage is intended to be a spiritual commitment. We commit to our spouse, and we commit to God, do the best we can to love the person that we're committed to. The word honor means to lead the way in letting someone else go first. Honor one another above yourselves. And don't you teach your kindergartners? Right? You got to share. You got to let somebody else go first. You got to let them play with your toys. Well, that never changes as we become an adult. We still got to learn, even though you're fighting for the first in line at Thanksgiving, it's still kind to honor other family members above yourself. It means to go first and lifting other people up. We're not talking about flattery or politeness. We're talking about intentionally thinking, how can I elevate other people so that they feel like they truly matter? As I was with family this week, one of the things that I was trying to be conscious in doing, because I don't see my nephews and nieces very much, is just to ask them about their lives. Not to talk about me, but ask them, tell me about your work. Tell me about your job. Tell me about your kids. Tell me what's going on, what problems are happening, and just talk to them about them and let them know I really care about what matters to them. I didn't want to talk about me. I wanted them to know that I'm noticing them. We look for ways to notice, to celebrate, to lift other people up, because that's what families do. This aspect of devotion and honor is hard because families are messy. They're both literally messy and emotionally messy, right? Now, I don't know what kind of family you grew up in. Maybe it was sweet and supportive. Maybe it was harsh and open. Like, I remember somebody telling me one time, we are honest. And, we don't just pull punches. We're real in this family. We tell everybody what we think. Well, there's a line there, I want you to be honest with me, but I don't want you to blast me away with your honesty because you feel like you have a right to say something. That's not love. That's being rude. And so, maybe for you, Thanksgiving was kind of a contact sport, because it was chaotic. It was just crazy, the way things happen. But the reason why this metaphor works is because we all know what a family feels like, for better or for worse. We understand how families are supposed to function. Now, I want to talk about my functional or dysfunctional family this week. I had a chance this week to go back to Alabama and spend time with my dad. He turned 80. So happy birthday to Dad. And part of this, my sisters and I had got together 2 years ago at another family reunion. I think it was somebody's graduation. And we said, we really need to plan ahead because my one sister lives in Maryland. One now used to live in Wyoming, now lives in Alabama. So we said, it's hard for us to get together. This will give us a reason to get together. It was Dad's 80th birthday. Man, I'm telling you what, I'm so glad that's over. So we planned this birthday for 2 years, right? Because my dad was in ministry. We contacted churches. He served in 10 churches in his lifetime, ex-staff members and church members, his Sunday school class, he sings in the choir at his current church, his best friends from high school, and then all my family on both sides. I mean, like my mom's family and my dad's family, because that's Uncle Joe. So all my nephews and nieces were there, all my cousins and their grandkids, and it was just crazy. It was over 100 people at this birthday party. So it was really successful. Some people I've seen in 10 years, and some people I can wait to see another 10 years. You know what I mean? There was both chaos and joy. There was both conflict and love. I have 2 cousins who don't get along with each other, brothers, and I went to each one of them and I said, I know you're not talking right now, but can I get a picture? And they said, as long as you stand in the middle, yes. That was kind of what happened, And there was a family member, and I'm trying not to throw anybody in the bus, so I've written this out, who blew up about something stupid, and we're all talking about that. What happened? Where did that come from? They just blew up over something dumb. One family member decided they were in charge of the whole thing, and in the middle of honoring my dad, decided that their side of the family needed to stand up and be recognized at my dad's 80th birthday. What is going on right now? Why did that happen? I'm still getting over it. I love living in Kansas. Right? And yet all of my family was there. All of my family was there. I got to see my family. There were hugs, there were laughs, there was glances that said, we're going to talk about this later. There were texts later about, what was that about? Just happened, That's a real family vibe. You get that a lot because maybe your family is local. Mine's not, thank God. It's not perfect. It's not polished. It's people who stay. I was there, and my cousins who didn't get along came because they loved Uncle Joe. That's family. Even when things get weird, especially when they get weird, because that's what families do. Because let's admit it, when it comes to family, every family has that one weird family member. Is he going to come? Is he going to be there? Or that one weird uncle, right? Strange. In our family, it was this weird person, and they were there, and they were weird, and it was fun to watch. You got that one family member who sends that passive-aggressive comment in the family group text, right? And you're like, what was that about? Where did that come from? What are they trying to say? You all got one holiday or vacation story where there was a meltdown and you don't talk about it until years later. There's trauma. And I told my sisters, I said, we all have some trauma. And I said, can we just get together and not talk about our trauma? Because I don't want my relationship to be based on, let's just talk about trauma, who we don't get along with. And if you're thinking, not my family, then you're probably the reason why everybody has trauma. Right? That's exactly right. That never happens in my family. You're probably the one everybody's texting about. If you can think about your last family function and you were sitting by yourself and had 2 conversations, you might need some emotional work, right? So families, they disappoint each other. Conversations get awkward. Somebody intentionally will blow things up on purpose to see what happens. We all have personalities that clash. Feelings get hurt. Expectations go unmet, and disappointments happen. But we stick together. Families are messy. We stick together. And one of the things that I'm trying to help my adult kids, because this is something I've learned over time, is that the question isn't, I'm right, and I want to make my point, and I want to stay on my point, and I want to stay on my ground. It's not who's right, it's how do we stick together? How do we navigate this argument so that we're still close later down the road? That's what matters. It's not I'm right, because you might be. It's okay, what can I do in order that we can remain so that we don't have bad blood between us? Now, if you're not committed to that, then you'll throw the baby out with the bathwater. But that's what we try to navigate in our family, and we don't always do it right. Paul meant this when he said in Ephesians 4 and Colossians 3. Ephesians and Colossians almost mirror each other in what Paul says to 2 different churches, and this is what he said. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. And then when he writes to the Christians in the town of Colossae, he says, put up with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Both of these Ekklesias, both of these were churches or groups of people, because there wasn't a building at the time. There were Ekklesias that met in different communities in different towns, in Ephesus and Colossae. And Paul basically says the same thing to 2 different towns, miles apart, because why? We all will have family conflict. We're human. Those interpersonal conflicts are going to happen. So they're having the same conflicts because they're all human and dealing with the same issues in their ecclesia. So let's look at a couple of these words. It's messy, but we show kindness. It's messy, but we are compassionate. We're not, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to listen and lean into what you have to say. It's messy, but we choose to forgive. We choose to forgive. I love this. We put up with. We bear with. It means essentially sit there and go, not to roll your eyes and go, oh, I can't believe they showed up, but it's actually to lean in and say, you know what? I'm going to choose to endure this and give grace and mercy and love to someone who maybe I don't really like too much. And we've said this, and I'm going to get into this in a moment, and you've heard me say this over and over again. This love one another is bound by how we relate, and there's over 100 commands in the New Testament, in all the New Testament books that talk about how we one another. We love one another, we encourage one another, we support one another, we value one another, we confess to one another, we pray for one another. Why? Why is that in there? It's not in there so that we can not do something. It's talking about human relationships, and that intentionally functions as a family. All of these help us practice what Jesus said. It's how I love you. I love you by serving you. I love you by forgiving you. You love me by putting up with me, right? By putting up with you. This is what we choose to do because Jesus is our example. You can't one another yourself. The Ekklesia is not a Lone Ranger. That's not a good reference. People don't watch that anymore. But it's not an individual. You're on an island by yourself. It's not an isolation type of thing. It's not just for, extroverts. It's meant for us to interpersonally react and relate to one another. And you can't one another yourself, but, technically you can. But it gets weird fast. You start one another yourself, that gets really weird. I mean, you can try to encourage yourself in the mirror. You got this, buddy. Yeah, I know, I got it. You can do that. You can be that self-centered. You can even bear with yourself, but that involves eating ice cream and sweatpants. And, this is just who I am right now. I mean, that could be you, but that's not how this is supposed to work. We're meant to relate. And not only that, we're meant to relate in such a way to where the outsiders who come and check us out, see that we're relating in such a loving way, they go, I want to be a part of that community. I like the way they relate to one another. I like the way they treat. So, Jesus meant for us to follow him, but not do it as a solo act, but do it together. Do it together. The one another's work when there's one another. That's how they work. They don't work by themselves. In fact, somebody would say to me, well, I don't see where I'm supposed to be a member of a church. Sure, that word is never used. There's a hint of it related to one verse, but it's not talking about membership as we understand it, like a gym membership or a subscription membership. The word is implied in the way we act or operate or function. So we one another because we're committed to one another. In Roman culture, this was such a foreign concept because Roman culture, when Jesus was using this word ekklesia, first of all, it was built around men. Women and children were not considered important. So men were the only ones who had functionally a place in society, and it was built around honor and class and separation from the rest of the world, and we're better than everybody, and it's dog eat dog, and who's the most important, who has the most power. So the Christians came along, and they equaled themselves to slavery. They equaled themselves to slaves in culture. They even called themselves slaves of Jesus. They elevated women. We've talked about that. They made the status of women equal to men in the church. They elevated children. Did you know back then that if you didn't want a kid, you could just put a kid out and let the dogs kill your kid? It was called infanticide, and they did it all the time. You know who was grabbing those children up? Christians. Christians were grabbing those children up. And here the Christians, they come along, they're calling each other brother and sister. They're treating women and children and slaves like equals. There were shared meals across status lines. In fact, the reason why we have hospitals is because Christians were caring for the sick. That's where hospitals came from. It was initiated by the Ekklesia. That was a movement of the church. It was intentionally meant. And during plagues, they were touching people who had plagues and loving and helping people who had plague, who had disease. That type of family stunned the Roman world. And they were attracted to it because there's something about it, something that we want. You know, Jesus said, they will know you're my disciple because you're practicing this type of love. You're loving like a family. Tertullian, who was an early Christian writer and theologian in 155 to about 240 AD, when he was writing some of the church history that we have that records some of these events, he said, see how they love each other and how they're ready to die for each other. And then N.T. Wright, who's now probably the most important theologian today, he's probably in his 80s. He's amazing. His book on the resurrection, best book I've ever read. It is the volume on that. He said the early Christians did not focus on building a new religion. They became a new family. We talk about different religions, Christianity, Muslim, that kind of stuff, and Christianity is never meant to be a religion. It's supposed to operate like a family, and that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it different. I just love what John Mark Comer, who's we do in our church, Practicing the Way, which if you're interested in spiritual growth, this is a great way for you to grow spiritually. We provide this online group that you can join this fall. So pay attention as we talk about that. We've already done 2 seasons of it, and everybody who's gone through it, I've got nothing but great things. Here's what he said. Church is not a place you go. It's a family you belong to, and in a family, everyone shows up, and they stay. One of the things that was interesting about being here for so long now is that I have had a chance to see people come and go. When I was earlier, this is my first pastorate, hopefully my last, unless you run me off. This is my first and last pastorate as pastor. In youth ministry for 20-something years, I left churches because when you're not in charge, things happen, right? And things happen when you are in charge too, but there were things that happened over the years, money, problems, staffing, bad leadership, or just opportunities to move to the next place. So, you know, I stayed at a church for 5 years, for 6 years, one for a year and a half, got in there and got out of there. You know, just that, and so I never really had this tie to a community where I saw people leave. I was always the person leaving. So it was new to me to be here for so long, to see people come and go in our church family. And listen, every time I get to know one of you guys, and you start participating, you become part of our church family, and then something happens because I can't control all the factors that keep you here. You move, you don't get along with somebody, or you don't like something that's going on. It feels like a divorce to me. It literally, that's emotionally the weight that I feel when someone who I've got to know has become part of our church family leaves our church family. It's awkward, it's hard. When you see them in public, in the grocery store, it's weird. And I struggled for years. Do I send them a letter? Do I not send them a letter? Do I acknowledge they left? Do I ask them? And so thank God for ChatGPT, because it's helped me write some of these hard letters to people saying, listen, I don't want this to be weird. We're in the same community, and when I see you, I want to still treat you like we're still part of the body of Christ. We're still part of the church family. Because I want them to know that whether or not they like me or left because they didn't leave because they didn't like Lee, right? So let's just get that out there. Whether they like me or don't, you know, I want them to know that I'm still going to try to love them, and I'm still going to be available to them. But that's what family does. It sticks together. It doesn't love because it's easy. It loves because it's family. It's family. So how do we apply this? What's the challenge for us? How do we make this simple, easy, and obvious? That's what we said, right? Let's keep this simple. Let's make it easy, and let's give you an obvious next step. I think the challenge is to participate. There's that word that Rusty uses all the time. You need to participate in an Ekklesia. Sitting forward and looking at me is good because you're learning something, but it's not participation. It's just sitting in a room listening to me teach for 35, 40 minutes. Participation means you're one anothering one another. It means you've owned part of the role and responsibility of our church. So last week we asked, who is your Ekklesia? And today we're asking, what are you doing to participate in this or some other Ekklesia? If it's not this one, go find something you can participate in. You've got a skill, you've got an ability, you've got something you can offer, and you can do. And you can do one of two things, give or serve, right? And those are both participation. Those require action. You can give or serve. So let me just give you a reason why I love this word, participate. Everybody say really, participate. I mean, if I could say something to you after you've been here a while, you need to participate. You don't need to sit there. You need to do something. I love this because I've already used serve so many times. Engage, get involved, join in, get in the game. And I just need one more synonym. And I really feel like this one's good because it involves doing something. Serve just doesn't carry the weight, even though it is the New Testament word for it. I love it because it's church code for please help us do something so the same 6 people don't do everything. I love this word because it makes me sound positive instead of passively aggressive, desperate, I love participate because it sounds way more spiritual than everybody needs to pitch in. I love participate because I'm trying to convince you this is fun. This is not a sign-up sheet in disguise. It's actually fun. Some of the most fun I've had in ministry is projects and events where we all teamed up together to accomplish something. When I talk about the most fun I've had in ministry, I talk about where we all came together and we had this mission, we had this idea, we had this event, and we pulled it off. Because there's something about that community that makes it fun. I love it because it's, apparently there's no spiritual gift called watching others people serve faithfully. So participate. So let's lean into that for a moment, and let's talk about how the New Testament uses the word serve. And here's what it says. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Now, let's just break this down for a moment because it's so important for us to understand the intent of this verse. Peter is writing his letter, talking to a church, saying if you're going to be a part of an ekklesia that meets in this location or this home, then you should find a way to do your part. And when he says each of you, that means everyone in the room. It means everybody that I'm writing this to. No one is excluded. This is not about church leadership or being an extrovert or somebody who gets paid to do this full-time or even part-time. Peter is leveling the playing field by saying, use whatever gift. Now, I love this because it's a combo word in Greek, and it involves both movement, action, and it involves God's spiritual involvement in your life. It's you doing something plus God enabling you to do something. So this word gift comes from the word charis, where we get grace. And it's a grace gift. It's something given to you, and we're going to get into this next week. At your spiritual birth, when you're born again, you're saved, you begin to follow Jesus, you actually get a spiritual gift. I'm not talking about some ability you have like singing. That's a way to serve with your talent. I'm talking about a spiritually gifted gift that God has given to you at your spiritual birth, and you can figure out what that is, and if you want to know more, show up next week. And so you use this to serve the members of your ekklesia, a gift that God gives you. So this is Paul's way of saying, hey, put me in because I've got a gift. I'm gifted. I'm spiritually gifted. Use whatever gift you have received. That word receive very easily means that you didn't do anything to earn it. You didn't go to school to get it. You didn't develop it. God gave it to you, and he expects you to use it. And that's what, this is not, hey, if you feel like it, lean in. If you think about it, lean in. This is clearly a command that we're called to obey. But here are the lies we tell each other. I'm not needed. Truth is, you are. Ask anyone who's ever tried to run kids ministry shorthanded. And ask anybody who's in there right now trying to deal with all your kids during this time as I'm looking at the clock saying I need to finish early because they need me to finish early. You know what I'm saying? I'm not good at anything. Truth is, you're better than you think. And then God's Spirit fills the rest. In fact, most of the time I've learned how to serve God is by actually getting involved in learning while I'm doing. I didn't begin to speak because I was a great speaker. I began to learn how to speak because I practiced the gift of speaking, where it says to teach one another. And that's what I did. I worked on becoming a better teacher. You might say, well, I've already did my time. Guys, this isn't jury duty. I already did this isn't jury duty. This isn't like, I did my time. I was in the military. I'm done. This is the mission of Jesus. And it never ends. Hurting people who need us to love them and be involved in their lives and reach out to them, and especially in our own church. I don't want to commit to something every week, truth. Well, then commit to something. Commit to one time a year. Start off really, start off somewhere. Don't just do nothing. Do something. Be flexible. Don't be invisible. Now, this is why it's a family thing. Imagine. You go to Thanksgiving, and some of you have these Thanksgiving traditions where you meet at somebody's house and you get ready for Thanksgiving by spending a day before Thanksgiving to get ready for Thanksgiving. Some of you do that, right? Some of you don't like it, but you do it anyway. So imagine walking into Thanksgiving. You didn't even help out, didn't do the pies, didn't do nothing. You didn't cook the turkey, you just showed up to eat, right? You and your fat self rolling in to eat. So, and you announce, hey, everyone, I'm not helping anybody do anything. I'm just going to get my plate and sit down. How's that going to go over? You're going to be talked about in your family. You're going to be looked at in your family. People are going to be mad at you in your family. No, in a family you participate. Not because somebody guilted you into it, because that's what families do. They pitch in. They participate. You stir the gravy. You wrangle the toddlers. You help clean up before you leave. You do something. You take the trash out. Not participating, we get you a glare and a passive-aggressive comment from somebody in the family. That's what families do, right? It is a family thing. So when Peter says each one of you should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, he's not handing out an optional sign-up sheet. He's describing what it means to belong to a spiritual family. That's what we do. We love like a family. We don't always get it right, but in a family, everyone shows up. Everyone helps. Not because it's forced, but because you're part of something bigger than you. It's what you're trying to teach your toddler and your first grader and your third grader. We all pitch in. We all do our part. So yeah, maybe your gift isn't up front. Maybe it's quiet. Maybe it's behind the scenes. But in the Ekklesia, your gift isn't optional. God gave it to you when you were born again to understand and to use. And I don't know about you, but that's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. That God chose you, a sinner who he saved, and he says, I'm going to give you this gift so that you can operate and do things for my kingdom. And then you're actually going to get some praise out of it, because people are going to recognize that you're gifted in this area, and you'll get to point the praise back to God, saying, you know what, the reason why I did it is because I'm motivated to serve, or I'm motivated to teach, or motivated to help, or motivated to care, or I'm really good at showing mercy. These are spiritual gifts. So, if you're part of a family, you've got to roll. If you're in the room, you're in the game. And if you're still saying, I'm not really into participating, then maybe you need to ask yourself, would I ever tell my grandmother that at Thanksgiving? Because you wouldn't. Nobody would. You wouldn't tell your grandmother that you're not there to help. You might be the lazy person in the room, but you're not going to bring it up, right? So, the challenge is to participate in an Ekklesia. Very easily join a team, volunteer for a role. Okay? Join a team, volunteer for a role. Now, if you have a handout or if you don't have a handout, I have done the work, and I've come up with every way you can possibly participate in our church, from just dipping your toe in to being all in. You know, if you just want to dip your toe in, you want to wait a little bit, or you want to be somebody who's just rescuing people. We've got roles for everybody. And we need everybody. And everybody is valuable. And every role matters. Every role matters. So do your part. I checked the Bible. Watching others isn't fruit of the Spirit. So I counted. It takes 25 people every week to make this service happen so you can sit out there and miss functions. 25 in our little church. Every week, we need 25 volunteers. Now, we average, 75, 80 adults every week, about 120 people maybe on a Sunday, a good Sunday, low Sunday, about 80 to 90. And we need 25 of those to do just Sunday. So, there's a volunteer handout in your bulletin. You can look at way you can check that. You can check it, you can turn it in, or you can right now get your phone out. Please do it. Get your phone out, point it toward that QR code, and it will take you to a survey, and it will give you all the options. Complete that survey. It will be emailed to me and to other church members. And this is not an automatic sign up. You're not checking it, and I'm not calling you next week to teach the preschoolers, okay? That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is one of the leaders who's in charge is going to call you and talk to you and say, hey, what questions do you have? What are you thinking about? And just give it some thought. We're not automatically going to put you down. In fact, what we may ask you to do, and probably what we're going to do, is we're going to ask you to shadow. Shadow. Hey, come and sit in the preschoolers, or come and sit back there in the live stream and just shadow for a couple. See if there's something, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Just shadow a couple of weeks. See if it's something you like. Some of these roles are just event roles that happen in Christmas and tailgate. And so these are roles we'll just keep you in mind when those things come around. Some of these are things we need every week. Like we have a rotation of people who clean the church. And the more people that clean the church, that means the longer you wait to clean the church, right? Currently, I think there are 5 people who clean the church. And so that works out on the 5 Sundays, when there's 5 Sundays in a month or 5 weeks in a month. So you're not automatically signing up for anything. It's just a way to survey and see what you're interested in. We have so many things that are actually falling through the cracks, so many things that we could do, and there's a place on there to check, hey, I'm really interested in this ministry, and it's not offered. Now, you need to know, don't call me because I ain't doing it. But you need to know, we're going to ask, are you interested in helping setting this up or leading it? And we're wide open. We'll try anything here. We really will. If you have a passion for it, we want to get behind you and support you. So, as we talk about the Ekklesia, and as you discover that this is your church family, would you do us the service of participating? Because when you're in the room, you're on mission. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this truth. God, I thank you for the Ekklesia. I thank you that the river is my Ekklesia. This is my church home. This is my church family. These people are my people. They're my Jesus people. And I want to learn to love them and serve them as best as I can. I would love to see us have the opportunity to reach more, but the people who are here matter to me. God, I pray for everyone because I know everybody has some stuff going on. And maybe we brought up some trauma because they have trauma in their families. So, God, I just pray that you give them grace. Because it's hard to love like a family. It's hard. And, God, give me grace to love my family members. Help me be the light of Jesus and the love of Jesus to my family and to my church family. Because when we do that, we're a light and love to the community. And people see, that's something I want to be a part of. Help us love and be a light like Jesus. We love you, Jesus. We're here to celebrate your love for us. We meet because you died for us, you saved us, and you've given us this opportunity to do something with our lives that matter by serving you. Help us be on mission for you. We ask these things because you loved us first. Amen. Well, thank you guys for being here this week. If you're a first-time guest, we don't expect you to sign up for anything, so just hear me when I say that. But thanks for being here. You know what? We're glad you're here. Next week is Father's Day. We're doing a bunch of stuff on Father's Day. First, we're dedicating children. So if you had a baby this year or have never dedicated your children, we would love to honor you and your family and pray for you. Child dedication in our church is a way of saying that our church family is committing to pray for you and support you. So we would love to do that. Contact Kristen Murr, who is our preschool director, and we would love to work that out. That'll be done during the welcome next week. Next week, we're also going to recognize graduates. So if we've missed you, please let me or Josiah know. We have a gift for you, and we want to give our church family a chance to see you and to pray for you. So that's what we're doing next week, both graduates and that. Megan Bowman, please come on up, and we're going to let her speak for a moment about how you can volunteer in our church. Let me grab a mic real quick. She's going to talk about VBS today. I got Raylion's mic.
Is it working?
Yes.
Everybody hear me? Okay. All right. I'm on the board for VBS, the Clearwater Community VBS. I'm going to go ahead and post this back there. It's just got a couple pieces of information. Our mission this year, or our theme this year is True North. Our mission, we want to help children grow in their faith and connect with God in a fun and creative space. We want to reach as many kids in this community that we can, and we need your help to do that. A couple ways that you can help. We do have a QR code right here for registration. Pre-K through 5th grade kiddos is who we're targeting, but if you have a 6th grader or an adult yourself that wants to volunteer, this QR code will get you, this QR code will get you to the registration as well as volunteer positions. You can volunteer as a crew leader if you don't want to volunteer all day or all week. We are looking for just a few people to run this snack rotation for the river for just one night, so you can contact me personally if you'd like to do that. I put my number there at the bottom. Yep, it's taking place July 13th through the 17th from 5:30 to 8 at the United Methodist Church. I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to hit me up.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate you heading that up for us. Yes, awesome. So, is that all the announcements I've got this week? We're good. Awesome. Well, go out, go home and participate in that meeting and help clean up.
Enjoy